Proverbs. Proverbs 31, starting in verse 10. A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ship, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night and provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for the task. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hands she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle in her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes covering for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat amongst the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and her faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honour her all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise to the city gate. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Well, good morning. I've already had cause and opportunity to show wisdom today. I double-checked the pages of my sermon notes to find that the paper had run out and a third of them were missing. So it could have been a cliffhanger today. Or you might have watched me struggle in real time, try to wing it. Both of those options may have been more entertaining for you, but deeply unsettling for me. So I'm glad to say that I do have my full set of notes, so you're not getting a shorter sermon today. But I want to talk to you about a woman who does not exist. 2 years ago, in what now feels like the early days of AI, when ChatGPT was actually only a year old, my husband showed me an article about someone who had asked ChatGPT to design images reflecting the different suburbs of Melbourne. Each image depicted a woman in a Miss Universe-style costume. So we clicked through the portraits, laughing at how cleverly each neighbourhood's traits and stereotypes and demographics had been worked into the images. Aspirations, the various cultures, even little nods to local activities and landmarks were all woven into the image. Some were exotic, most were glamorous. Nearly, but not all. We saved our biggest laughter for the ones that were meant to represent our own neck of the woods. Because while the other models were in gowns and elaborately beautiful put-together headpieces, Miss Brunswick and Miss Northcote were, let's just say, a little bit more chaotic. Miss Brunswick was sporting a bright green bob under a chunky knitted hat decorated with avocados and market produce. And Miss Northcote was perched on a bike, her hair unbrushed. She was wearing wooden jewellery, a tartan ensemble that had frayed hems and long socks. And I was glad. I was glad and secretly proud. The arty, hipster, eclectic, creative energy of our beloved inner north had been tapped into. Here was a woman who was more down to earth and more interesting, at least to me, than the polished and traditional feminine stereotypes. This Miss Northcote doesn't exist, but boy did she nail it. Putting a philosophy into human form and using a character to carry a worldview isn't something new. It has a long history in art and literature. Ayn Rand, the Russian-American writer and philosopher, developed an ideological system which she called objectivism. Her novels were the vehicle for her worldview. By her own admission, her main characters are not meant to be taken as ordinary people, but aspirational models. Humans, not as they are, but as they, according to her, should be. She believed that rational self-interest and radical independence was the highest virtue and would lead to the best human achievements. She opposed altruism and self-sacrifice. And her main characters were described by one critic as having all the human warmth of a praying mantis. Humans, not as they are, but as they ought to be. People who don't exist. The woman in Proverbs 31 is a poem about a woman who doesn't exist. It's not a real biography, but the ideal personification of the philosophy that lies at the heart of Proverbs. It's not a checklist for young maidens telling them what sort of woman they should become to catch a husband, but rather it's a portrait of what it would look like for someone to live out perfect wisdom within the world Proverbs describes. A virtuous ideal meant to inspire everyone. The clue that we're dealing here with something idealised is actually in the literary structure of the poem itself. It's an acrostic poem, which means that each verse begins with the next letter in the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph to Tav. It's as if the writer is saying, here is the Aleph to Tav, the A to Z of wisdom, from beginning to end, lived perfectly over one life. Now, if you're new to the Bible or it's been a while since you've looked at the book of Proverbs, let me give you a quick overview. Most people know Proverbs as a book containing hundreds of short and clever sayings. They cover serious issues of moral conduct as well as warnings about behaviours that are, well, just plain silly. The Lord detests dishonest scales, says one Proverbs, but accurate weights find favour with him. Another proverb says, if anyone loudly blesses the neighbour early in the morning, it will be taken as a curse. People do dumb things. But the book of Proverbs is not just a random list of pithy advice. It's not a spiritual version of spin the bottle where you give it a whirl, point to a verse and see if it piques your curiosity or solves a crisis. Proverbs is a carefully designed journey that moves from a foundational worldview built on God's creation to practical smarts for good living. Here's the argument. God created the world with an invisible creative force called Chokhmah, or wisdom. And God's universe is a moral one. It's got a moral logic baked into it. Proverbs is written as a school for the soul. It's about character formation, telling you about the fabric of reality in order that you can become the kind of person that will flourish in it. And the key theme is the fear of the Lord. Fear that is not terror, but humility and reverence. It's the recognition that God is the one who defines good and evil, not us. All of us have an antenna for awe. And awe for God is what leads to virtue and wisdom that just works in the world He's made. But everyone has a choice between two paths. The path of wisdom, which leads to life and peace, or the path of folly, which leads to destruction and ruin. One voice calls out and says, "Let God be God." Go along with this voice and you will go along with the grain of the universe and flourish. The other voice says, "Be your own God." Go against the grain and shipwreck yourself in destruction. The reality of the cosmos is like wood. You can live the smart way or the dumb way. You are free to choose the direction, but not the outcome. Live along the grain of reality, and you will experience it as smooth, or go against the grain, and you'll get splinters. So that's the book of Proverbs. Wisdom is baked into the cosmos. Everyone has an antenna for awe. Fear God. Let God be God. It's the only smart way to live. Don't be dumb. And so we come back to the Proverbs 31 woman. She's the book's closing picture, the capstone that pulls it all together and reinforces the whole Proverbs way of seeing the world. She is Miss Wisdom herself. And what a woman she is, a great catch of a woman. I mean, who could be so lucky as to be married to someone like her? She works hard, she provides, she plans ahead, she's competent with money and with people. She's handy at home, she's savvy with finances, she's entrepreneurial at work. She's generous to those in need. She's not rattled by the future. She's ahead of the curve. She laughs and waves away all concern. And when she speaks, people want to listen. She never puts her foot in it. Only wisdom and kindness come tumbling out of her mouth. Her household is cared for, her reputation is strong, her children are perfect, and those close to her have only good things to say about her. What's not to love about this perfect woman, with her antenna always pointing to God, living along the grain of the universe, nailing wisdom from A to Z? Well, I love her. I want to be her. I want her life. But she poses a tension. Actually, there's two tensions. The first tension is this. Life is not like this. Bad things happen to good people. Like those AI memes that I was describing about suburban women, Proverbs 31 woman is not a promise, but the sum of probabilities, all other things being equal. If your antenna is straight and your awe for God is intact, forming you, directing all your choices towards wisdom, this is what life will be like, says Proverbs. But hang about in Ecclesiastes. All things are not equal. Weird stuff goes on in the world. People aligned with the grain of the universe that God has made get splinters. Just ask Job. Proverbs is not meant to be read alone. It's part of a trilogy. We need the other two wisdom books to get the full picture, Ecclesiastes and Job. So that's the first tension. Life isn't so straightforward. The arithmetic of Proverbs is a first lesson in reality, but not the only lesson. The second tension is different. Celeste Barber is an Australian comedian. You might know her. She became an internet sensation through her challenge accepted posts, in which she recreated Instagram shots of impossibly perfect women to hilarious effect. You know the kinds of shots that I'm talking about. A celebrity drapes herself effortlessly down along a set of stairs upside down, wearing high fashion. A wellness influencer opens the door with something that's either a high kick or a flexible yoga move. And Celeste's attempts to recreate these images, well, they just make you laugh. And it's because they make the point. Real women don't look like that. Real women can't do that. And if we try, well, we'll either hurt ourselves or we'll just look ridiculous. When it comes to the Proverbs 31 woman, I'm Celeste. I like her, I admire her, I wish I was her, but I can't be her. You see, my antenna is bent, and I've dropped some letters of the wisdom alphabet. Oh, sure, from a distance I might look wise to some of you, but come up closer and in the weekday corners of my living and in my embarrassing histories, I know I can't pretend. I've lived against the grain and I've got splinters to show for it. In the words of Paul Kelly, I've done all the dumb things. Well, at least some of them. Proverbs, remember, deals not just with the grand stuff, but with those details of character, those dumb things that are small enough to escape the mesh of the law and the broadsides of the prophets, but end up being so decisive in personal dealings. Life in any community, and Christian community as well, shows us that this is true. We all know the genius who's difficult to live with, the affable comic who can't hold his liquor, the passive-aggressive co-worker who ghosts our messages, the generous philanthropist who talks too much and can't read the room, the cheerful soul who's unbearable in the morning, that friend who's forever dropping in who won't pick up what we're putting down. Folly shows up in the grand moral questions, yes, but also in the minutiae that grates. My awe is compromised. I'm too weak to always want God to be God. What I am is the fruit of habits coming from my fragile antenna, bent as I entered life and bent further by responses I've made, neglect I've absorbed, hurts I've sustained. I've been on the receiving end of folly, and I've enacted folly for myself, grasping at the good life with an unreliable fear of the Lord, or sometimes very little at all. So if it's too late, if I can't achieve this wisdom vision, well, what's the point? Is it just a hopeless ideal that's always out of reach that I'm to aspire to? Is it there to mock me for the poor choices I've made or the bad luck that I've had? Where's the good news? If the life I'm living now is marked by the fruits of my own and others' folly, or the random, unexplained vicissitudes of life. Here's the good news. Good news for all of us. It's not about what happened in your life or mine. It's about what happens next. The purpose of Proverbs 31 woman is not just to make us wish we were like her, living a life worthy of our humanity. It's to show us what wisdom looks like so we can recognize it when we see it. You see, something else has happened besides your life and mine. Something definitive, something incredible. Another life has been lived. The Proverbs 31 woman might not exist, but the man does. Wisdom personified has stepped out of the poem and entered human history in the form of Jesus Christ. Jesus, the God-man, the very wisdom of God. 1 Corinthians 1:24 says that Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. He is the wisdom through which the whole universe was made. And he lived a real human life of perfect wisdom, with all the letters intact, A to Z. We were too weak to let God be God. He alone was strong enough to always want God to be God. His antenna was intact and remained strong and straight. He grew from childhood in wisdom and stature before both God and man. He lived a life of industry, charity, wisdom, doing good everywhere, lifting up the lowly. He was never a bore. He was never a slouch. He opened his mouth to give life-giving teaching and answered his opponents with irrefutable wisdom, not winning points for the sake of it, but to win people. And yet, this one, who alone fulfills the wisdom ideal, does not enjoy the long life of prosperity Proverbs projects. He dies the death of a fool, as if he had a broken antenna, as if he had dropped all the letters of wisdom. Demise, destruction, and ignominy are his lot. Public fool number one, crucified in humiliation on a cross, paraded for public entertainment like a court jester. In Jesus, the simple arithmetic of the Proverbs world is flipped on its head. He died as a fool in the company of fools, one on his left and one on his right. And whatever mitigating life circumstances might explain these criminals and the path that they were on, they had followed the path of folly all the way to this same grisly end. Bent antennas. The letters scattered everywhere. But what matters more than their histories is what they will do next. One of the criminals, Luke tells us, hurled insults at Jesus, but the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God?" he said. "Since you are under the same sentence, we are punished justly for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." One of them reviles Jesus. One of them has the wisdom to admit he is a fool. And in that moment, this fool receives the end the wise deserve: life in paradise with Jesus, the wisdom of God forever. We all arrive in the world with a bent antenna. Our choices and the actions of others twist it further still. Awe for God is intermittent at best, and we have the splinters to show for it. Like a fool, I've done all the wrong things, but Jesus has been all the right things. And now for anyone with the courage to admit they've been a fool, it's not what happens next. For anyone with the courage to admit they've ever been a fool, it's not what happened that matters. It's what happens next. Because of what happened to the only wise one, God looks at the humble fool with his Jesus goggles on. He sees a person with their antenna intact and upright and strong, and any of the missing letters of wisdom have been filled in. And it's not an illusion, it's true, because God is making it true. By God's grace, He makes such people wise, starting from the inside out. And He does that for you and for me, so that we can be match fit and ready to live along the grain of His new creation. And on that final day, all traces of folly will finally be gone, and only love and wisdom will remain.